Can y'all hear me okay? Can y'all hear me okay? Test, 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 test. Well, hello. Welcome to That Minis Paint Show. I'm Reid Denton. Today I will be working with you guys to paint some miniatures. Today what we're going to be working on is Yaun-Ti, also known as the Snake People. There's a variety of them. I painted up a bunch for the latest game that's going on Thursdays with Whiskey, Magic, and Destruction. And hopefully you guys find some excitement with some of that. Can I get a sound check for anybody in chat? Can you guys hear me okay? Yes, no, maybe. Okay, awesome. Thanks, RW. I appreciate you. We love you too. At the same time, okay, great. Can you guys hear the music in the background? This helps me get a good idea of if the sound is coming in good or not. No. Okay, let's see here. It's just ambiance music. We'd like to thank tabletopaudio.com for making this great music that we can play in the background. We're patrons of theirs. If you haven't used them, I highly recommend them. Please go to tabletopaudio.com, try out their sound pad as well as their music, and also be a patron if you can. Okay. Alright, well, we'll see if you guys hear it in the background. Should hear like some rushing water and stuff. Okay, so today we're going to start by painting some Malisons. We're going to paint some other snake people. And we're going to paint one of their magical priestesses types. We went ahead and painted these. These are a combination of different miniatures from different companies. But they're all fairly look-alike and they create a nice effect. Some of the things I'm going to switch over to the tabletop cam so you guys can see some of that. There you go. So what we're going to try to do is get these painted to a high standard that match what we already put on the tabletop. We're going to show you how quickly and easily I painted them, and we're going to bust them out pretty quick. So in a way it's going to be some batch painting, but you're going to learn each of the steps several times over with each of the miniatures, and you're going to learn some of the ways we do it here. The paints we're going to use today are matte white, weapon bronze, soft tone, basilisk brown, Sulfide ochre, and Venom Wyrm. Okay. We went ahead and painted these in a color that's like Venom Wyrm. So it's this dark green, earthy green color. This one has a little bit of a sheen on it. We're okay with the sheen, knowing that we're going to take these down a notch or two once we hit them with our overcoat. That's going to be a matte overcoat, so it'll take the shine right off it, so it's no big deal. So one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to dry brush the weapon, or the weapon bronze on the metal bits. And the reason we start with that is because, well, metal is easily covered when it's dry brushed, and it just works out better that way to start with your metals most of the time, at least for me. All right, so give a quick mix of our bronze. Remember, we're trying to get the consistency of melted ice cream with most of our paints. Add just a smidge of water, mix it in, should get us where we need to be. Okay. Now, the metallics, we're going to use a dry brush technique for it. Dry brushing is a quick, easy way to add some color. We may need to actually add some overbrush on the swords as well. This will allow us to do a quick, easy color on that. So the way we do that, I don't know if you can see this on the side here. Yeah. So what you do is you apply the paint, then in a circular fashion you rub most of the paint off. So any swords, any shields, any metallic bits on them whatsoever, we're going to do that with. I'm going to save that guy for last. So as you can see, he's got a metal plate right here. We're going to add a little bit there. Ooh, it's going to be tough. I'm going to add just a smidge more here. You can see that color come in a little bit. And when we hit it with the wash, I think you'll like the final result of that. So we just do a circular fashion, We're adding some color. It's okay if we get a little on the scales because we know that paint hides all sins, and this will happen pretty quickly. All right. We're also going to get his arm ceste as well. You guys see this okay? Just checking. Okay, so hold it up tight. All right. So, oopsie, a little much. Like I said, we can hide all mistakes pretty easily. One of the things I like to do is usually work from the edges in, starting with the blades and then working out. I also got to get the inside of the blade here as well. And again, we can do this very, very quickly to knock these out pretty quick. And the reason I start with the blade edge first is it lets the shinier metal start there and then taper off as you get further back. Particularly if you start with a black primer on metal armor, sometimes that's a great way to go as well. And again, I'm going to get the gauntlets here, or the ceste, depending on how you pronounce it. And what this does is this puts a lot of color on the model real fast. This lets it get the metallic colors that it needs quickly, and it helps get your miniatures ready for tabletop readiness pretty fast. Most people think you have to have miniatures ready so that when you look at it like this, it's like this. That's only for show pieces or competition models. Most of the time the models are about 2 feet away from your face or more. Some of us call that the 2-foot standard or the tabletop standard. That is a pretty easy way to maintain a good idea of what level of detail can be seen at the 2-foot standard. That doesn't mean you shouldn't try to do your best, but it does mean that the minute details that might get missed are really not worth killing yourself over, especially when you got hundreds of miniatures to paint. And these Yaun-Ti belong to another DM you guys will see here in the near future for our upcoming show, the Velkin Wee, which releases on 26 February, I think it is. Yeah, 26 February, Wednesday, 26 February. Highly recommend you tune in for that first show. I know the cast have been working hard to get ready for it. A lot of stuff. And not only that, we learned some lessons over the last few weeks on our show. We learned that we really needed to plug directly into our router, so we're doing that now. So hopefully you guys are seeing us pretty good. Hi, Amarana. Good to see you too. Hopefully our stream is a lot tighter this time around. On top of that, we've gone ahead and we're upgrading our we've been able to pull together and upgrade the Wi-Fi and the internet at this location, so that we can get you much higher speed quality bandwidth that helps get the there we go. Sorry about that. I was pulling back. Much better quality speeds for the internet, so the show goes well. So you guys can see everything that we're doing. So, and we think that's so important. We've actually delayed the showing of our Wednesday premiere until after that's in place. What's everybody else working on that's in chat right now? Ah, good. Papercraft barrels. Do you paint those? DM Quicksilver? And just to kind of give you an idea, hopefully you can see this here, the difference. I'll show it right here because it's probably easier for you to see it here. The difference in the metals versus the unmetals. Oops, learning to use the camera here. Like I said, the metallics is one of the quickest, easiest ways to start your models with a dry brush. I almost never start models without doing the metals first. If you're going to dry brush them, it's almost always a necessity. Now, detailing after the dry brush, I'll wait till after I've got a lot of the things done, but that's just me. Oh, okay. What miniatures are you working on? I saw some in Discord the other day from you, DM Quicksilver. I thought they looked pretty good. Or yesterday, today. It was today I saw them. And I thought they looked amazing. Everybody see that okay? Yeah. Over the next few weeks, you'll see us with a slightly different configuration also when we paint with guests and talk about some of the different techniques that we'll be using on some of the miniatures. Some of the cast and crew will be painting with me as well from some of our other shows. And then if I get requests for certain miniatures, we'll try to fit those in as well. It's not usually too terribly difficult to fit in a good miniature or two. And you can see I'm already only like 15 minutes in, and I've already got 3 of the medals done on these miniatures. It's pretty quick and easy, as I said, not terribly difficult. Now I'm going to show you this particular piece. Now this is a snake type person. Can you see both the top and the bottom here? There we go. But he's got a lot more armor on his back here, his head, his chest, much larger ceste. He's got some tail plates as well back here, and just tons more. So we're going to really give him a good workover for metals. And you can see how quick that adds color to this model. And as I said, it's okay if we get a little on the skin. We'll be going back over some of that here pretty quick and easy. But this gets it done fast and easy. And you can see how the dry brush technique picks up the high points on the model and knocks it out. When you've had to paint hundreds of these at a time very, very quickly, you learn some tricks on this. And it's nothing special. It's still a dry brush technique. It's just how rapidly you can do it and not necessarily sacrifice any quality. My goal is to get all these done in the show period, maybe even bust out a few more if we need to. And what I particularly like on this piece is the way the helm is on the top of the head here. I don't know how well you can see that. There you go, right here. It's truly spectacular the way they did this model. There we go. Get that shoulder piece down and out of the way there. So, little circles, get all the little high points, give a good covering. There's a similar technique called an overbrush, but you don't dry brush any of the metals off. It just gives a big color blurb right there. It's very effective for some things. We'll be demonstrating that on another set of models here in the not too distant future. There are some limitations to dry brushing. Metals is good, dusty effects is good. Certain types of hair details can be fantastic, and fur, but as I said, there are limitations. If you do it wrong on clothing and stuff and you wind up dry brushing clothing, it can look very dusty or chalky. Sometimes you want that, sometimes you don't. And again, if I get a little bit on the skin, that's okay. I can hit that again in a little bit. Paint hides all sins. It's perfectly okay. Let's see here. Double checking some stats here, guys. Cool. Alfred, thanks for joining us. Alrighty, now getting those blades done. For anyone in the cast that was here, I had a crazy scramble for whatever reason. One of the audio camera systems wasn't working. Somehow we had accidentally turned off all of our audio settings so that no audio would be captured. And it took me about 45 minutes to figure out what was going on. Thank goodness I did it before we were supposed to go live, and I was able to solve it with about 10 minutes to spare. Otherwise, this would have been a lot of typing for me today. So you guys can see that okay? Good. Eventually, I'll have some kind of screen in front of me so I can see what you guys see. Well, so far so good. Stream is not breaking at all. Have there been any breaks in stream? You guys are still seeing us okay? Any questions? Now you can see the detail on this particular model as the brass really starts to take effect here, or excuse me, the bronze. And the reason I went with the bronze with the snake people in particular is I I'm just reminded of a lot of stuff from Greek myths during the Bronze Age, and it just seemed appropriate based on the style and the look. To go with a bronze coloration. And later on, when I do some stuff, if these guys turn out to be like ancient, I might even add some patina to them as we go. All right. I'm gonna just squirt out just a smidge more of my weapon bronze here. I'm gonna get myself a sip of liquid refreshment. Pour a smidge extra in there. There we go. All right. Now with these guys, these are archers. There's only a limited amount of metal on these guys. I'm going to hit these shoulder points right here. I don't know, can you guys see that? Yeah, you guys can see that. And I got to be a little bit careful because I don't want to take too much of the leather and hide that. And I'm going to get the gauntlets. But why are you doing the gauntlets in metal? I'm lazy. Because if I do these things in leather, it's the same effect, but it doesn't provide a nice contrast to the snakeskin body, and you'll understand when we get done here. Sometimes having that metallic shininess compared to the snake body, because I make the snake skins a little bit on the earthy tone. They're based, to me, on snakes I've actually seen growing up in Arkansas with various different pit vipers and water moccasins. So those are the colors I kind of go with. Greens and browns of earthy tones so that they can blend in. Alright. And then I'll do the bow in just a similar metallic fashion. So you guys can see it better. Alright. It really just pulls out those high points, just like you'd expect a good dry brush to do. If you guys have any questions on what I'm doing or what's going to happen, please feel free to ask in chat. I do check. And we've got some of our other team members in the chat also to help you guys if you have any questions. I think the first few guests we'll have on will be Primula, who plays Zatara, and some other good friends of the show. And then we'll have Shannon on, hopefully to do her gnome. It's going to be an exciting few weeks here. Just a smidge more. Need just a smidge more. Again, giant circles. See if you guys can see that okay. One of the techniques, I'd like to sit my elbows right here against my body, and then I'll oftentimes, if I'm doing detail, I'll put my wrists together for dry brushing. I really don't need to do that so much, but I do like to hold my hands up. You'll find this will help with fatigue. It'll keep you from getting as tired. It's one of those easy to do things that makes your life a lot more comfortable long term when you're painting. Check this one. I can add some more green in the back, or some more bronze in the back here. Realized I might have missed an opportunity. Okay, let's take a look at these models. These have almost no metallic bits whatsoever. I'm going to stick to cloth for them and leather, so we won't do those in that. Alright, that pretty much sums up our metallics at this point. So just to kind of show you some of the mistakes that were made that we're going to cover right up, they're going to disappear. You can see just a smidge of copper hit this tail piece right here from when I brushed this way. It hit the tail here. You see a little bit on the elbows and the arms, and just a smidge on this back side here where I got past it. And that's going to be consistent across quite a few of these. No problems. This Venom Wyrm paint right here will take care of that, along with this soft tone, which will get inside the crevices if there's any. Handles 90% of our problems whatsoever. What's next? So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go with the, let me double check here. Let me double check something real quick on the original model. Give me 2 seconds. I'll be right back. So, pulling one of the originals from the table that we did, I'm just double checking which of these colors I used on the bottom here, and it looks like it was Sulfide Ochre for the win. Okay, I'll put this guy right there. All right, so first things first, I'm going to clean this. Then I'm going to swap this out. One of the things you need to remember is keep a separate cup for metallics and a separate cup for your colors, because you don't want to get metallics in with your colors. Otherwise, when you go to do other things with your colors, what will happen is you will have a lot of metallics sparkling inside your color. So when you rinse, stick with your metals in your metal cup, your colors in your color cup. Thank you, Tim Lyson, for teaching me that one. Alrighty. Next up, we're going to take Sulfide Ochre, place a little bit there, and remember our rule is melted ice cream. I'm going to use this brush, this larger brush, and the reason being is I want to knock this out pretty quick. This is a, well, no, you know what, I'm going to swap down to this one. I'm going to swap down to this Regiment brush. I really like the Regiment brush. The Regiment brush allows me to do a lot of cool things that I wouldn't be able to normally. I'm also going to swap this down in half, cover up the metallics so I don't accidentally get metallics in my brush. Start by adding some water. Give it a good rinse. Make sure she still points well, and it does. Pull my gloves tighter. I'm going to add some of this ochre here. Again, we want the consistency of melted ice cream with the paint we're working with. We can have stuff that's not, but whatever we're going to work is melted ice cream style. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to hit the underside, because snakes tend to actually be lighter on the underside, and we're going to try to achieve with a quick overbrush technique the same kind of color right here. So you'll see how that's going to look in a minute, and you're going to let some of the green from below bleed through. That's okay. You don't want to go too thick, and again, it's better to be too 2 thin coats than 1 thick one, and you'll see just how much detail you can retain continuing that path regardless. So you can already see the difference right there. Ooh, got a little too wet. Down a little more. Alright. And it's okay if it shows through a little bit. You're going to do a second coat anyway, and you're going to hit it with a wash, so that'll pull the tone out of the high points, or at pool and the low points, adding some shading. Getting some notifications. And as I get done with each thin coat, I'm going to put it down and go to work on the next one, so that by the time I get to the last one, the first one will have dried out. And I can go right back in. Some of those areas where the copper was, the brass, or bronze, sorry, disappears right under this as we add these coats of color. Now I'm being a little more careful here because I want to try not to have to correct this if anything goes wrong. It's just a little bit easier if I don't have to at this point. Make sure I dab it into the crevices here. Sometimes I gotta get a strange angle that's not easy for you guys to see. Tease it out a little bit. The music I'm playing in the background, if you can hear it, is a variety of different forest themes. Because the snake people of Nagera in Dungeons and Dragons live in a swampy area and a forested area and the hills, and so they often have to attack from the woods, called the Forest of Worms. Remember, it's always better to do 2 thin coats than 1 thick one. Duncan Rhodes would be so proud. see. That moment when you forget an entire section that you know you need to get to. That just happened. How many of you guys thought you'd be painting snake people this week, huh? So, for those of you who are tuned in, let me know in chat if you'd prefer me to tell you guys in advance what I'm going to be painting, or if you want me to just surprise you. What do you think is the best way to kind of keep the format of the show going for that, and keep people coming back for more as they go? Some people like the surprise, some people don't. I just prefer to try to check all the boxes for as many people as possible and make this an exciting show for everyone. All right. As you can see, we're getting those scales from the bottom. Hopefully you guys can see that okay. How's the light from the top this time? Much better? Thanks, little Spud. Glad to see you. Again, we're getting the underside here of this particular snake creature. Yaun-Ti, as they're called in Dungeons and Dragons. The color I'm using is called Sulfide Ochre. It's a nice lighter earthy contrast, I think, to the almost worm green, Venom worm green that we're using. Ah, thank you. Thank you, Tornia. Or Tiny Orza, for that feedback on the light. I have that overhead ring light, as well as I've moved the other white light closer. I may do something to focus the various lights even further. And then I may also get some bright LED lights. Now, I just messed up and I got some on the sides here, and I was able to just take my finger and do a quick brush over and remove that excess. One of the easy things to do, especially when you got rubber gloves on. It just makes life Pretty quick and easy for that stuff. Okay. I really made this particular piece kind of tough to get to the undersides of in some cases, but I just look at that as a challenge. I like challenges. And like I said, it's okay if you're not perfect on these. It's more important that you get the color on and that you know that you can correct any mistakes you make, because most of them will be pretty small. And even if they're large, they're all correctable. Paints, especially if you use those thin coats. Thin coats allow you to correct a lot of things fairly quickly. It's those thick coats that create problems over time. Yeah, just a smidge more pigment. Pull it back out here. And to be honest, this color scheme, as scary as this color scheme was really figured out approximately an hour and a half before the last Thursday show, and I punched through them. Cecil brought a bunch of these over so that we would have them to use, and it was a mad scramble to get the amount done. I think we got, gosh, I forget how many done. We didn't wind up even using, a quarter, more than about a quarter to a third of them. But they look great together, and now have literally a small army of them if he wants them. That'll all look the same. And that's, half the skill of this stuff. Which one am I listening to right now? I've got the Secret Garden up. get this signature piece right here. Thing about this particular guy is he's real easy because almost all of his scales are right here on the front. I don't think there's hardly anything else that shows on this guy. It's worked out really well. These archers are really forgiving as well. You guys see that okay? Oh, I'm sorry. I was leaning too far forward, wasn't I? Thanks about that. I have got to get in the habit of looking up as opposed to down. And that'll come with practice. Thanks for your forgiveness on that, guys. Thanks, Scaredy Ginge. I appreciate it. Scaredy Ginge has our back today on stream. You guys have been very supportive. I think right now, has our bandwidth been a lot better today, I think? For those of you guys watching that watched the last show where we had just crashing bandwidth. And for those of you who are also unfamiliar, Yaun-Ti have a terrible ritual they can use that turns other humanoid creatures into something called brood guard. They lose all of their sense of who they were and what they were before, and they are now no longer able to do anything other than protect their Yaun-Ti masters, and they are essentially enslaved, and their only will is to protect their masters, the Yaun-Ti, and so with that they creates all sorts of opportunities for the Yaun-Ti to have their eggs guarded and everything else under the sun. These also have their little tail tip there. Alrighty. this leather bit right there that goes across the waistline right there. I'm not even worried about that if I get some on there, because I'm going to hit it with the darker brown here in a little bit and no one will see it. Any of the lighter color on there, so it's okay. A little extra there. Spread out just a smidge more. We'll take a brief moment, take a sip. Of my caffeinated beverage. I really didn't like the way that came out, so I'm going to do something different here and add just a smidge more sulfide ochre. There we go. May have gone a little too much with the water. Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, that covers a lot better than it was before. Alright, let's see here. Yeah. Much smoother. I don't know about you guys, but I just get some zen when I'm in the moment and I'm painting a miniature. It's a great way to relax after a long day. Doesn't matter if it's something I'm getting paid to do. Not getting paid to do. This is some zen. Particularly if I put on some of like the scenescapes from Tabletop Audio. I think that some of their forested stuff is just some of the best to just mellow to. And the great part about painting miniatures is if you prepare just a smidge in advance, even if you're on travel, because I travel a lot, or whatever. You can paint almost anywhere. Alright, I'm going to leave those to sit. Do something real quick here. Let's see here. There we go. And for those of you who have not checked out our Discord, we are on Discord. I'll have to make sure we put up in chat what our public Discord is. Give us a check us out, see what we're all about. We have a wonderful team in there that love to talk to people. We'd love to have you guys in there and talk to us about your projects in the miniatures channels and various other things that we do there, just to find out what you guys are working on. Mini's in frame, but camera's focusing on my hair. Thank you, Arkline. Hey, Brody. Brody, are you painting miniatures for D&D as well, or what would you like to talk about for D&D? As I mentioned, the first run dried, so now I'm just doing a quick overbrush to hit the high points and give a nice full color coat to that area, to areas that need it. This just gets out any of the last little bits of discoloration and modeling down there. And then the wash will pool in those recesses when we get done, so this is getting done pretty quick. We're about the halfway point in our show, and we're already done with most of what we need to do to get these guys looking really good. That's the good news. And we will have painted 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 miniatures in total. So pretty awesome if you think about it. Okay. All right, and that solves the underbelly. Oh, no. Sorry, I got 3 of them done. I've got to get a whole bunch of other ones with some overcoat here. Let's start here. Jump the gun a little bit. guy up here. This particular piece is interesting because they tried to make it a feminine snake. It's fairly interesting to see how they added those feminine elements to the miniature while still maintaining a snake-like feel. I don't know. I'll let you guys tell me what you think after it gets done. We'll have a special treat for these wizard-like shaman creatures, or whatever they want to be called. Because they have like a spell effect as they're holding fire above their heads. There we go. Like I said, we're just doing a quick overbrush to get the remainder of the color on there. Then we'll let that dry and we'll hit it with a wash. There we go. Alrighty. So for those of you who are around on Thursday from 7 to 10 Eastern Standard Time, we have our D&D live stream going for Whiskey, Magic, and Destruction. A whole bunch of fun people, engineers, analysts, actors, artists. We all get together and we play Dungeons and Dragons. And we are playing in Faerun, the land of Forgotten Realms. And we hope that you'll join us on Thursdays and check it out. I think you'll enjoy the show. That's 7 to 10 Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/thegamestavern. Our next step is going to be soft tone. However, we want to give the paint time to dry, because one of the things about washes and paints is if they are still wet, if either is still wet and you put one on the other, it basically ruins a good time. So what can I do during that? Well, I have a certain effect I need to get done on these particular ones because they're holding fire up here. And we want to make it look kind of cool, and at the same time I don't want to make it look exactly like fire. So what to do? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint that white, and as part of that white, that should create a nice color change that I think will contrast brightly and nicely from what we're doing here. So how to do that. So we're gonna use matte white. We're also gonna use a different product from Citadel called Nighthaunt Gloom. And the reason I like Nighthaunt Gloom is it's a technical paint that creates a kind of a ghostly flame effect or a ghostly ghost effect depending on the context of the model. In this case, they make another one called Hexwraith Flame, which is green. However, because the snake is already green and color wheel and all, we decided to go with Nighthaunt Gloom because it's a nice blue, which will contrast completely differently. Not that Green Flame isn't a gorgeous color, it's just when the snake's already green, it just doesn't pop as much. So we're going to do that. So the way you do that is we're just going to hit it with a white, and then we will cover that again with the Nighthaunt Gloom, which does a kind of a really cool effect, I think you guys will like once we're ready for that. So again, remember our goal is to create a melted ice cream with our paint here. And you see the dripper bottles, the thing that's great about these dripper bottles is you only use a little bit of what you need. You don't burn up a lot of paint. I do almost all my paint on the palette. I never paint from the paint pot itself, because if you make a mistake and accidentally get some other color paint on there, you don't ruin the entire pot by getting a pigment in there that you don't want to get. And again, same rules apply. 2 thin coats beats 1 thick coat any day of the week. And because we're going over such a dark color, it does not hurt to go with multiple coats to layer it up. And it's okay if we get a little on the fingers, because wouldn't the fingers be wreathed in light from the fire in the first place if they got hit? Or if it's casting the spell? I think so. And I don't know, am I too far forward? Can you see the top of my head when I lean forward like that? Yeah, you can. Alright, I'll see if I can do to lean back a little bit. Must resist the urge. Well, that's why we do batch painting when we're doing small miniatures, because when you do small miniatures, you can have some other ones drying while you're working on another set. That saves you a lot of time and heartache, and lets you get a lot of miniatures done quickly. I typically, when I do small miniatures, I try to do the same type of miniature, or the same general type of miniature, and I typically do them in batches of 10 or 12 at a time. For the sake of this show, I'm only doing 7. But I think that in a 3-hour time frame, 10 are easily doable, 12 easily doable, depending on how much detail. Now, if it's a signature piece like a hero model or a big monster, it's typically 3 hours minimum per session on it for me. Some people do it an hour at a time. I tend to be a little longer. I do take breaks. I just won't be tonight. We've got about another 45 minutes to go, so I'm trying to get as much done as I can here. For those of you who don't know, this show segment is typically 2 hours long. We're looking to add some open boxes to the backs of some of our shows where you guys get to see new products. Depending on the product, we'll determine which show it goes to. So that worked out pretty quick. Oops. Alrighty. Let those dry for a little bit. And I'll hit them again with another white. On another show, I'll show you guys how to add patina to bronze or copper. Your call. I'll take another quick sip of my caffeinated beverage. Any questions so far on what I'm doing? I'll wait for long enough. I gotta let some paint dry anyway. Get the soft tone prepped here. And a brush for that. No other discussion points, huh? I love that you want to resist the urge to let paint dry. I think that's hilarious. So what I'm getting prepped to do with the soft tone is I'm going to use this larger brush to do the wash, because I'm going to do just big swathy brushes of the wash on there. This is a fairly easy brush to do it with. One of the things we need to be careful of is not to shake the wash very thoroughly. I did that last show, and I had to pay for that a little bit because I just spent a little extra time teasing out bubbles from the wash. So you just want to do slow, loose twirls to mix it. You don't want bubbles in your washes, because sometimes those bubbles will stay, and then you get the tiny little ring that shows in the wash line, and you want to avoid those because it just doesn't look very clean that way. It's just one of the things. It's too easy to do, and if it's easy to do, it's easy to fix. So it's not really a major hassle to do that. So something to consider. All right. What I wouldn't give for a fan right now. When you, Arkline, you asked which brush I was using specifically. The brush right here, is this what you're asking about? This brush right here? Arkline 1963. This is the Army Painter Wargamer Monster Brush. I use it for washes for small creatures quite often. It's the right size. The one I was applying the whites and the undertone colors to was the Army Painter Wargamer Regiment brush. Highly recommended. It's really good for Regiment brush. I have like extras of the Regiment brush. It's my go-to brush for most of my base colors. It's a fantastic size and shape for most of what I do. Then when I get into details, you've got a variety of options, and I have several of those as well. We're not going to get too heavy into those per se, but we will be doing that at some point. So let's see here. I think we're about ready on these front guys here. And give it a quick look-see here. Yeah. Okay. So what we're going to do now is with the soft tone, we're going to add some color that will pool in the recesses. It creates a shading effect. The really slick way to do this is, instead of doing all this dry brushing on the top here and hoping to peel something out on the tops of these scales right here, we're going to just add shading that tones everything down. It'll even take some of this glossy sheen off the paint as well. But it'll highlight the depth of the scales. I like to say that wash's main ingredient is called cheating. It's like literally brush on talent. Because if you're not there to showcase a whole lot of detail on a specific single model, this is the quickest and easiest way to add the detail that you want. I've got a little bubble there. See if I can't tease that out of my way here. You don't have to water this down at all either. It's really easy and good not to. I just hit the model with it. I think you'll be impressed with how quick it goes on. The only thing I'll do a little bit is to the heads and skin tone for some of this. I may add some paleness for the humanoid bits that look a little more like human, I guess we could call it. I think you'll like that. And I also hit the armor with this. I don't hold back. I hit everything, the face, the armor, and the reason I use soft tone is it's a great all-round brownish chestnut tone that really hits the right color points for both the snake and the armor and the underbelly all in one. So in one fell swoop, this particular wash takes care of most of what I need done relatively easily. And you'll see what I mean in a minute. We'll give you a comparison so you can see one without and one with it, and just see the difference that it makes. And I just layer it in handy. This is one of those paint pots that I typically buy a lot of, just because I'm going to use a lot of it on models like this. If you saw the White Dragon from last week, you'll saw that I did a fair amount of black from the was it the dark tone? What was it called? Yeah, dark tone. That was the dark tone I used. To really get the scales to pop between every scale that overlaps. And I also get the underside as well. Definitely something to consider. Don't just hit it with the wash. If I could dip this thing reasonably and get the detail for the wash, I would. Just drop it in, pull it out, let it go. Probably handle 90% of what I need it to do. The arm painter does make dips. However, they're not the same. They are for what I consider a different effect that I would want to achieve, which is not what I get here. Okay, I'm going to let that one dry for a bit and go ahead and move on to the next one. I got a third one here that when I start in on it, I'll show you what the first one should look like dry, hopefully by then. I hit it one more time. Alrighty. It's okay to go a little heavy with the wash. You can tease it back out to a thinner amount later. It's not usually a major problem if you do so. Okay, just to kind of, let me hit this guy and then we'll move on to the showcasing the difference here. Got about 30 minutes left in our show. Again, I'll put it out there for anyone who's interested. If you guys could mention some models in chat and let me know some of the things you might be interested in seeing us paint. And if there's specific techniques you want to see, you know, whatever it is we can do to add value to your painting experience, we'd love to hear that from you. My goal is to obviously listen to our fans and provide, you know, the kinds of things you want to hear about, while at the same time just doing the things that we got to do anyway to prepare miniatures for our shows. You can see this wash is really great on all these metal bits. What I lack in skill, paint makes up for, or this wash makes up for, fairly quickly. Back edges. There we go. Scaredy Ginge, I think one of the first things I'm going to do after I get this done is I'm going to figure out a different chair to start using. Maybe even go a little lower. There we go. I like to tease this along the lines because that's what really lets it pool in the crevices to allow the shade to really show in the model itself. So. Find that zen as you go. Essentially anything with scales is going to really benefit from, a wash if the scales are actually highlighted on the model or raised on the model. You're letting the miniature show its details by picking it out that way. There we go. And beautiful, beautiful. Alrighty. Almost put this in the water and I didn't want to. If you go too thick early on, it's okay. You can tease it right back out of any place it's pooled into. But you got to do it while it's still wet, because once this stuff dries, in this particular case, it's really hard to get it out. Again, I'm not worried if I get the metal. What I am worried about is that I get the metal, the scales. I want to hit it, every part of the model. And you can see how it pools in those recesses. chainmail painting techniques. Thank you for that. That is actually... chainmail is really, it's one of those things that if you know what you're doing, it's really easy, and if you don't, it can be quite daunting. I will definitely see what I can do to find some models with chainmail over the next few weeks and get those up for you. That's a very good choice. Chainmail is it's a lot of fun to do in large quantities, actually. Alrighty. And because we have a minute, I'm going to show up close. Can you guys see this here? This one has wash on it. This one does not. You can already see the detail difference on the scales and on the front. Wash, no wash. See it focusing. You can see the detail difference, and it's huge. Now this is still drying a little bit. This is not, but you'll see the continued difference there as it continues to go and dry. And then you can do a light overbrush on top of that wash, and the pools will remain dark in the recesses. But what'll happen is those high points along the edges will pick up whatever the highlight tone is that you want to go with. Really quick, do I still have? Yes, I do. I'm going to work some white into these still. I'm going to try to see. I don't know if we'll have time to get the ghost flames done, but what we will do is we will pick this back up next week, and we will show off the ghost flame technique with the white here. Arcline 1963. What chainmail are you going to be painting anytime soon? Is there particular miniatures you're working on that does that style, or if I have some of the same miniature, I'll try to use those for you, since you requested it. That blowing action that you saw me do was to kind of spread it a little in the scales that I was working on there at that particular moment. It's not something I recommend for everyone, but it gives me a short, quick little spritz or spray. Let me rephrase that: not spray, but a spreading of the wash amongst the scales here, so that it doesn't pool too thick in one particular area. There we go. Sorry about that. Getting the top of my head again. Okay. Now we're going to get the wash on the last two. Get those scaly bits. In this case, I'm not hitting the cloth that this one's wearing, because I think I may actually go with a slightly lighter shade of maybe a purple on these for that cloth. Got a little bit on the cloth. There we go. Simple enough. Squeeze out just a smidge more. Let's see here. Few unpainted soldiers with shields from the dawn of time to practice on. Yes, you do, I'll bet, or Klein. All right, cool. No problem. Painting chainmail is pretty consistent across the board for most miniatures. As long as the chainmail actually has physical indentations on the models themselves for you to highlight and hit. It's I usually start with a black primer or a plate mail primer and then work up from there and then work down from there with the wash. There we go. Had a little too much pool in that little bit. There we go. Thing o' beauty. Get that face a little bit there. Okay. And last one with 10 minutes to spare. See how we do here. There we go. Yeah, I know, isn't it though? We got the hardwire figured out this time around. I don't think we had the hardwire figured out last time on stream. We got a lot of cooperation from the rest of the house today, and on top of that, like, we are totally getting that higher speed internet. Thanks to everyone being supportive and making it worth it for us to do so. So hopefully Thursday will be pretty killer. And then by the 24th, I think, when it actually gets installed, I don't know if I'll even be around when it gets installed. I probably will be. But when it gets installed, it'll be amazing. Amazing. And that same week that it gets installed will be the premiere of The Velkin Weave, another live play show from the Games Tavern Network with a completely new crew. So hopefully you'll be excited to see that cast and crew show you Dungeons & Dragons as well. And now just to get the last little bit on the face of this one. The other side here. Okay. Got just a few minutes with our program left here. So what we're going to do next week is we're going to bring out some more highlights on the scales. We're going to add in some more leather, and we're going to do the ghost flames on the priestesses. You can see some of these miniatures this Thursday on the table. Hopefully we'll have our DM camera set up for then, or our DM and our table camera set up, but I don't know that we will. We're just really excited to have you guys with us and support us. Thank you so much for being a part of everything we're doing. Again, if you have miniatures requests or painting technique requests, we're definitely here. You can pop into our Discord. If someone from the team that's on chat with us could drop the Discord link into chat, if that's possible. I don't know that it is. Please do that. That Discord link will allow you to talk to some of the staff and the cast and crew. We'll have special rooms available for some of our supporters, of course, but you know, we love talking to everybody. We love the hobby just as much as you guys do, and we love playing games too. And we want to hear from you directly and find out what it is that you like about what we're doing. You'll see some of the miniatures that we're going to use. Chances are some of the paint stuff that we do for miniatures that will be used in campaign will be after you see it in campaign. because I don't want to tip my hat to the actual players as to what's coming. So some of the stuff may be done after the fact, or at least so you see it, and then, you know, you get the idea. I got about 1 million zombies to paint just for zombies to have, because you never need enough. You never have enough zombies. I got goblins galore, dwarves by the thundering tons, giants, demons, trolls, spiders, you name it, I got it. And that's all thanks to people, you know, bringing them, or my past, you know, stuff that I've had for years that I've just never gotten around to painting. Thanks again for all the support. If there's thank you, Scaredy Ginge, posting that in chat. So like I said, if you have not come into our Discord, please join us in Discord. Follow us if you haven't followed us already on the Games Tavern channel, and support us once we continue to grow. We've been doing very, very well, and we look forward to seeing you guys some more. Any last minute requests? Anything you'd like to know about? Thank you. Scaredy Ginge, making some links. Always having our back. I learned more from Scaredy Ginge in the last few weeks getting this stuff ready than I think I could have ever learned on my own. So a big thank you to Scaredy Ginge. If you haven't followed her, you should definitely be doing that on Twitch as well. She's one of our biggest supporters, and as well as a Twitch personality herself, I might add. What else we got going on? I think we're going to have some cast members after this next week when we wrap up these Yaun-Ti. We're going to have some cast members painting up their miniatures on stream as a team. And then, I wish I could think about what else we're going to do, but I don't have it off the top of my head. So, like I said, Velkin Weave coming 26. Let me see here. I think it's 26. It's Wednesday. Last week of February, Wednesday. You'll see it in our closing credits as well. This Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, is Whiskey, Magic, and Destruction, our D&D live play for Thursdays. And then, again, next Monday, we will have That Mini's Paint Show, which is what you're watching right now, where we paint more miniatures for you. Last week, we did a big white dragon. This week, we're doing Yaun-Ti. Next week, we'll wrap up these Yaun-Ti snake people, and probably work on something else as well, or show a quick technique on something else, and maybe even the chainmail that our client asked about. Again, this show is really centered around you guys. We try to show techniques on stuff that we're already doing, but if you guys have specific requests, we'll be happy and excited to share those with you guys. And then we're also working on throwing in some extra programming on the backside of open boxes, where you'll see different hobby products that we use, that will get brand new. We'll show you what comes in the box so you guys can be aware or understand different things. So things like brushes, paints, glues, solvents, technical paints, techniques, airbrushes, you name it, we'll try to do it. Again, any final questions before we start to wrap up our show tonight? Is there anything I could be doing better besides showing the top of my head? No? All right. I'm going to showcase this one right off one more time. So again, this is the Yaun-Ti we started with originally. Let's see if I can get... Here we go. You can really see those scales starting to show, and the underside really showing well. And you can see how the metal is now coming out really, really good as well. That's because the metal's great, and then the wash over it really tones down the over shiny bits, pools in the recesses, and adds a lot of detail. I can't rave enough about a good soft tone and what it does for your miniatures painting. Arkline, especially, thank you so much. Amber Anna, thank you so much for your wonderful statements. Thanks to Lil Spud, DM Quicksilver, for jumping in and working with us today, and giving us some support. We really appreciate it. And I see some other new names on our system, and we really want to thank them for everything that they're doing. If there's anything else we can do for you guys, please let us know. I'm going to wrap up the show here with thanking everyone, thanking tabletopaudio.com for giving us some sound to play in the background. I don't know if you guys could hear it really well. We'll work on that for the next show. And then thank you so much to the team in the background helping me out, and thank you so much to all of you for tuning in and supporting us. And with that, thank you for watching That Minis Paint Show. I'm Reid Denton. I'll see you guys soon. Next week, Monday, and this Thursday at Whiskey, Magic, and Destruction.